Guys, let's focus. We're recording our lesson for others to view. So make sure that we're focused on what we're doing, or you won't stay in here long. On the side, write verbal expressions, because that's what all of these are. Okay, these are verbal expressions. And then down here, this side, these are all algebraic expressions. All of this up and down are algebraic. You will need to know the difference when you're working on some practice work. It'll specify, I want it as an algebraic or I want it as a verbal, and you're going to be like, I don't know what's what. If you wrote it down, you can always look back and see. Okay, verbal expressions, algebraic expressions. I'm going to turn that back up normal. And a couple of things, I want you to notice the words that have stars beside of them. Look at all the ones on the front that have stars. What do they have in common?
The than.
The word than. Okay? I want you to take your pencil right now, and I want you to draw a box around the word than in each one of those. Than, less than, fewer than. That word is really going to matter, especially when it's a subtraction problem, because it changes the order that they come in the problem, okay? If we look through our words, all of these words mean to add. Plus, and, added to, greater than, more than, increased by, the total, the sum of. Okay, all of those mean to add. Here, subtraction words are minus, difference, between, from, less, less than, fewer than, decreased by, or take away. All of those mean subtraction. For multiplication, you can have times, the product of, at, double, triple, twice, just the word of. All of those mean to multiply. And then the last set, division, you can use quotient of. If you're taking half of something, what are you dividing it by?
2.
Yeah. So let's just put that, because sometimes we forget about that. Half of a number means you're dividing it by 2. If something goes into another number, you know you're dividing. Or per, like the price is $8 per 50, or whatever. That means you're multiplying. Also, if you're dealing with a percent, say 15% of $25. The of means to multiply. Okay? Equals words are is the same as, gives, will be, was, and is equivalent to. If you see those words, you always put an equal sign. Okay? For addition and subtraction, did you guys realize that they are inverse operations? Do you know what that means? What are inverse operations?
They cancel each
Opposites.
other out.
They cancel each other out, and they're opposites. So those are both good terms. So let's write that. Inverse. That was one of your terms to define today. They are inverse operations. Addition and subtraction undo each other. That's going to be very important in the days to come when we start doing actual equations and solving them. So these undo each other. Same goes down here for multiplication and division. They are also inverse operations. So they undo each other as well. So on the back is where we're going to write the most of our notes. So we will turn that page on the very back of where we glued the red paper. I feel like I've turned 2 pages, but I didn't. Okay. At the top of this, we're going to compare equations versus expressions.
That's easy.
What do you think the difference is?
One has an equal sign, the other don't.
Yes, several people knew the difference, and that's wonderful news. Equations have an equal sign. Expressions, no equal sign. Give me an example equation. It can be an easy one.
A plus B equals C.
I'm going to combine what you said. A plus 2 equals 4. I took half of his, okay? Another equation that I heard, a squared plus b squared is c squared. Where does that come from?
Pythagoras theorem.
Yes, Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so that's an easy equation. It has an equal sign. An expression does not have an equal sign. It just might be 2c plus 5. There's no equal sign. It's just an expression. Okay? X plus y. something that does not have an equal sign is called an expression, okay? Now let's go back to that word than that we had in the beginning. Let's put a little star note. This is the most common error that we find, that I find as a teacher. This is the one we mess up on the most, okay, is that word than. So I'm going to write it again. We've drawn boxes around it. Now we're putting stars beside of it. It must be pretty important. This is a very common mistake that we make. When you see the word than, okay, you will want to change the order the numbers come in the problem. That'll make more sense when you see an example. Change the order the numbers come in the problem. All right, let's look at an example. And this is what your problems are going to look like tonight as we practice, okay? If I have a problem that says 9 points fewer than Trey scored. Okay, that's what your problems are going to look like. 9 points fewer than Trey scored. Now, let's take this piece by piece and try to figure out the algebraic expression that would go with this verbal expression. So 9 points. So 9 points. What does fewer than mean? Minus, right? Do we know how much Trey scored?
No.
So we would call it T or X or whatever. I would call it T just because Trey. You could call it any letter. But now, is this correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
No. T minus 9.
Why?
Less than.
No.
Because,
Because it's than, you change the order.
yes, excellent. Because of the word than, he paid attention. Pay attention. Good job. Okay, because of the word than, we just learned, change the order that the number comes in the problem. So instead of saying 9 minus T, we say T minus 9 because it's 9 points fewer than what Trey had to start with. Here's Trey's score, and it's got to be 9 fewer. So this is the correct answer. This would be wrong, okay? So make sure that you realize the difference. Now, a couple of words that we saw in the last foldable that we completed. If you see the word squared, what does that tell you to do to that number? Times it by itself. Let's say something about the exponent that it could have.
5
To the second, yes. What do you need? Right there?
Yeah.
Okay. If I have it squared, then I'm going to say that the number is to the second power. Second power. Like 7 squared.
49.
Okay, which would be 49 if I needed to evaluate it, and we will have to do some of those. So anytime you see the number squared, or the word squared, it means put it to the second power, which really means 7 times 7, which is really 49. A lot of people want to tell me that that's 14 because they want to do 7 times 2, and that's wrong. You have 2 7s that you multiply together, okay? What if I see the word cubed?
That's to the third.
Yeah, the number is raised to the third. I wrote raised that time, I didn't last time. It's okay. Is raised to the third power. So an example might be, if I have 2 to the third power. A lot of people want to tell me it's 6, but it's really 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Okay, so be aware. Also, this was another one of your words. If it says evaluate, you will see this on your practice tonight. If it says evaluate, what does that mean to do?
Solve it.
Solve it. Do the math, okay? Actually work the problem out. So when you see evaluate, put this in all caps. Because a lot of people will say, well, I don't know what that means. Evaluate. Well, if you look back through your little journals, you'll see that it means solve it. Do the math. Okay? Solve it when you see the word evaluate. All right? So let's look at an example. If my problem says this, and this is the verbal expression, I want you to give me the algebraic, okay? The cube of a number, this is what your problems will look like. The cube of a number and 7 is 34. The cube of a number and 7 is 34. So we have to write that using math terms. How do you represent the cube of some number that you don't know? How could I represent that?
X to the third.
He said, hang on, let's take it piece at a time. I agree with you. He said x to the third power because we don't know what the number is. Cube means to the third. Now, the word and represent what? What operation in math?
Adding.
Also,
Adding. What are you adding? 7.
So,
The word is means
equal.
equals. And it equals.
34.
Okay, so this, did it say to evaluate? No, it just said the cube of a number and 7 is 34. It didn't tell you to evaluate it. It just wanted you to write the algebraic expression. Okay, now let's go backward and let's do the opposite. If I give you the math problem, you tell me the words that might go with that problem. And we could have various answers, okay? So let me give you this problem. If I have 4x plus 2 equals 12, you give me the words that might go along with that problem. And you might have something different than what your neighbor might think about this because there's many words that would represent 4 times that x. Okay? So what do you think, Gabe?
Product of a number and 4.
I agree with you. The product of a number and 4, so let's write that. The product of a number, that's where you got the x from, and 4. What did you say? Plus 2 or add 2? And 2? And 2. What about this symbol? Is the same as?
Is 12.
Is the same as or is 12. Now, could you say it differently? You could say 4 times some number, add 2, equals 12. So, right? You could use any word that means multiply, any word that means add, and any word that means equal. All right? Don't always use the same one over and over whenever we're practicing these, okay? And let me show you what your practice sheet's going to look like real quick. Huh? Oh, we didn't say solve. So he went ahead and evaluated. Sometimes it will say evaluate, but we're not evaluating yet. Let me just show you real quick on this sheet what you're going to be asked to do. It says write it as an algebraic expression. If you're not sure what an algebraic expression is, that's why we wrote right here, algebraic expressions are all the math looking problems. If it asks you for a verbal expression, it wants one of these written, okay, with the words. So this one says in algebraic, the difference of 10 and 5. Well, what does difference mean?
Subtraction.
Difference is subtraction. Do you see the word than in that problem?
Nope.
No. So unless you see the word than, everything stays in the same order. So that's going to be 10 minus 5.
Equals 5.
And you don't have to say, you didn't say to
It's an
solve it.
expression.
So we don't even have to solve it because it isn't, first of all, it's an expression. It doesn't have an equal sign.
There's a
Okay?
major difference between expressions and equations.
Yes, there is.
Like,
Yep.
You'll miss every question on it.
For sure. Let me show you one. Let's see. Let me show you one down here. Write each as a verbal. Now you got to write the words. What could I say for that?
Number divided by 2.
A number divided by 2. Use a different one besides divide.
A number and x, the quotient of a number, x and 2.
The quotient of some number and 2. Okay? Some number x,
The way
you called it.
yeah.
Yeah, that'll work. There's many ways to write this. You see it's a division problem. Look up your division words. Okay? You could just write a number divided, well, I should have written the word, sorry. Divided by 2. That's one way to express that. This sheet that you're going to get is front and back. Please use your red notes and use what we wrote on here. Don't just discard it. We wrote it down for a reason to kind of help you, okay? All right. You can stop that video now.